Oh, I'm so excited, Chris, that you have joined me today to talk about your experience with the zone of genius.
Me too, Maura. I am thrilled to be here. It was a very profound experience, and I'm happy to share the positive impact that it's had on me with your students.
Great, thank you. The way that this will work is I'm going to do an official intro and then we'll go right into the questions. All righty. Chris Scanlon is a technologist with a passion for leading teams to help organizations grow. As HR Certification Institute's CIO, Chris and his team are responsible for setting and executing HRCI's technology strategy. Before joining HRCI, Chris had roles of increasing responsibility at Laureate Education. Chris's most recent role at Laureate Education was leading a data team with global responsibilities for data science and AI-enabled data products. Chris has also had roles at PwC, AOL, Econosys, which is a boutique consulting and software firm, and also as co-founder to a co-working and co-teaching startup. Chris holds a master's degree in operations research from George Mason University and undergraduate degrees in mathematics and economics from Macalester College. Chris also spent a semester abroad at the London School of Economics. Okay, you checked all the boxes there, Chris. Thank you. All right, let's jump right in. Do you remember when you learned what your zone of genius is?
Yes, I do. I remember very clearly. I think the what I would describe when the light bulb went off in my head about what what zone of genius means. And Maura, you and I went through a process where you were like a tour guide, taking me on a tour of this new place, and and as we were going through the different steps we were taking, uh, I it finally clicked that what you were getting at with a zone of genius was, what are all the things that put me into a flow state, and the what are the couple of sentences that would describe what is that flow state for me. And I remember you and I talked about it, that there really is a a a neurological connection to your zone of genius, and it's when uh, I, your brain is firing off dopamine, and that to me is what zone of genius meant. So that's my own personal experience with zone of genius. Understanding what is that flow state to me.
Wow, terrific. So, would you like to share what your zone of genius is?
Yes, so my zone of genius is my flow state is as an intuitive influencer, and this means that that I enter my zone of genius when I'm able to apply my intuition and influence people through positive energy, and through being able to synthesize a lot of complicated ideas and be very decisive, making making decisions and then bringing people along with my decisions. So that's my zone of genius, intuitive influencer.
Wow. Were you surprised by that?
I would say that I was surprised at being able to summarize all of the things that put me into a flow state in 2 words. that's what that's what I was surprised about, and it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense when I think about how would I capture in 2 words the things that put me into a flow state. And I wasn't surprised about the things that put me into a flow state. What I was surprised about, I didn't realize how profound the whole process to getting to those 2 words, were going to be on me.
What have you experienced? So you discovered your zone of genius, intuitive influencer. What did you experience after that?
There were there there were a few things. One is a deeper self-awareness, of activities that I do, either at work, either professional activities, or activities outside of work. And the self-awareness is, are the activities I'm doing part of my zone of genius? Are they putting me into my flow state? And I remember we used to catch up once a week more, and during catch up I would say uh, oh man, this past week of work there were these three activities that I was doing that I know was in my zone of genius, because it felt good. It put me into the flow state. But there were these other 5 things that weren't in my zone of genius. They were in my zone of excellence. I was effective at them. My organization needed me to do it, but man, it it drained me after being in my zone of excellence instead of my zone of genius. So that was the biggest way that I was able to leverage uh, understanding my zone of genius, a greater self-awareness of myself, which is so critical for me in being a leader. They're the tactical pieces of being a leader, but the more philosophical pieces of being a leader. And for me, self-awareness is critical uh, to making myself a better leader.
Mhm. And how has leading from your zone of genius helped you during this pandemic?
So the it's interesting that during the pandemic, that actually I've I've needed to allocate more time outside my zone of genius, because I needed to I needed to get a little bit more into the day to day operations of my team, the organization. So I've reallocated some of my time into my zone of excellence, uh, and engaging in what I'd say is much more tactical activities, because that's what what my organization has needed. What's been great is that I have I have I have the guardrails or the roadmap that that will enable me to move back into reallocating time back into my zone of genius. So, like anything, to get good at something, you have to practice it. And and for me to spend more and more time in my zone of genius, I have to practice uh, doing things that tie to my zone of genius. So my self awareness has allowed me to say, yeah, you know what? The past the past 4 or 5 months, I haven't been able to practice as much in my zone of genius, but that's what my organization has needed, and I'm willing to do that. What's also wonderful is I have a roadmap that I'm going to very quickly be able to to uh, to implement again, to continue to practice being in my zone of genius. So that's one thing. The second thing I'd say is one of the more uh, tactical practices of being an effective leader is around delegation. So being able to delegate activities to your team because they're closer to the details. They're closer to details. It helps them. It helps them grow. Empowerment is fantastic for your team. For your team at, at and ownership. Delegation has taken on a a new meaning for me. So I've always delegated based on tasks, and tying skill sets of my team to tasks. Now I delegate also based on uh, freeing up my time so I can reallocate my time from zone of excellence to zone of genius. So when I know that there are these activities that both fit skill sets of my team members, but also uh, 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 I know aren't in my zone of genius. Those are the activities that I tend to delegate more. So it's provided additional criteria or a different lens towards delegation.
Oh, that's terrific. I know delegation, especially when you get that clarity around where your innate skills and abilities are, that you can delegate. And delegation is such a critical skill, and it's one of those obstacles too, right?
Right.
As leaders, is what do I delegate? And it sounds like this process of discovering your zone of genius has helped you to gain clarity around which ones to delegate and which ones to hold on to, because
That's right.
what you're delegating could also be in their zone of genius.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And the other tactical thing that I've started to do is uh, uh, do do a mini exercise. When we did the zone of genius, we started with what makes you feel good. I remember more. We talked about that, and I ended up listing like 17 things that made me feel good. So every week with my team, in my one-on-ones, we always start the conversation with, in the past week, what are the activities that you feel good about? So that's another tactical thing that I've done based on my experience with the zone of genius, because being able to put them into a mindset where they recognize what their flow state is, does a couple things. One is it builds their confidence that they can take into things they're doing uh, in the future, which is another, I think, critical skill of an effective leader. It's to build confidence in your team that they can accomplish things, and then to have them take that confidence into any new problem that they encounter. And then the other thing, asking them to reflect on what they feel good about the past week. Is it makes them be more fulfilled with their work. So that's another tactic that I've started to do.
Wow, this is so powerful. Your experience, and then also the tactical applications of when you're learning it and you're teaching it. As leaders, we need to be the most effective leaders, and especially now, we need really, really effective leaders. And it does take that self awareness and that building confidence in people, because this time of uncertainty, we all need leaders who are the people we want to work for, right?
Mhm. Right.
Chris, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with leading from your zone of genius, an intuitive influencer. And I'm so excited to share this interview with the students. They're going to get so much out of this. Again, thank you.
Thank you for your time, Maura. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share with your students. It's so important that that future leaders are 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 put on to I think what is so important that in creating a leader, moving from 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 some of the tactical things to foundational things that really provide a moral compass or a north star that guides all their actions. So thank you for this opportunity, letting me share with up and coming leaders in your
Yes.
class.